Welcome to the Cruising is Life podcast. Whether you're a seasoned cruiser or just starting out, we have something for everyone. So sit back, relax, and get ready to set sail with us on the Cruising is Life podcast.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Cruising is Life podcast. Welcome back for another, I used to always say the weekly episodes, but it's been a while. We've been taking a few breaks here, but welcome back everyone, and welcome back to our co-hosts Justin and Dimitri. What's going on, guys?
Hello.
We got them both back this week. We were just joking like 5 seconds ago.
Both of us.
I know, because we did one with just me and Dimitri, then a few weeks went by with no podcast, and then we did one with just Justin. Then another few weeks go by, and here we are. The gang's all here.
The gang's all here.
But yeah, here we are I guess today we're going to dive into just bucket list cruises, whether it's ships, destinations, regions, ships that we've done, or, cruises that we have done, or cruises that we haven't done that we just really want to do. So, yeah, that's pretty much what we're here to talk about this week. And, with this one, we might grab ideas off of the chat as well. Normally we don't, because it's a podcast, we don't typically look at the chat, just because, it kind of takes away from the people that are listening elsewhere. But we may ping some ideas off of the chat if I see anything cool. So anyways, so I guess to get it all started, ultimate dream cruise, I guess what's a ship that you would always wanted to do that you have not done yet?
That's a good question.
Yeah, bucket list.
Oh boy.
Bucket list ship.
I mean, obviously, I'd like to do the new Oasis class, obviously, like the Wonder and Utopia. But I would love to try the new celebrity ships, like the Apex Ascent and stuff like that. I've heard great things about it. I have a friend going on Apex like in the next few days. She's out in Europe right now for it. So I would definitely like to try one of those.
That would be really cool. Those newer Oasis class ships are great, but I always complain about it because it's like the biggest thing for me. But the taller glass that you just can't see, when it comes to filming and stuff like that, like that's the biggest thing. But overall, those are the best Oasis class ships, especially Utopia. With the stupid glass out of the question here, they're by far the best one.
Yeah.
What about you, Dimitri?
I'd go with, to try the celebrity ones, but,
okay.
There's something from, MSC like Riviera, and that kind of goes into the cruises that I want to do over in Northern Europe.
Yes.
But, even like an Anthem or Quantum class, that's on my list too.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even think about that. But yeah, Quantum class have been on my list pretty much since Quantum came out. I'm very jealous. My parents are finally doing Anthem next week for Alaska, which is really, really cool.
Very nice.
Yeah. Do you have like a fan going in the background or something, Justin?
I do. Can you hear it?
Yeah, it's picking it up. It's going.
All right, hang
on. But yeah, the Quantum class are really cool ships. I hadn't even thought of that whenever I first came up with this question myself. But those are, especially like with Odyssey, that's I guess the ultimate, like the Quantum Ultra ship. That's usually like the best version of that class, which is really cool. But I think for me though would be, I guess when we're talking about ships, because I've done Icon, I've done all but one of the Oasis class.
Icon's on the list too.
Yeah. So I guess when it comes to stuff I haven't been on, I kind of have to say the World America right now, because if I've been on Icon, that one's kind of been crossed off. The Oasis have been crossed off. Done the XL. I mean, then you're weighing World America versus the Prima class, which Prima class is great, and I'd love to do that one. But comparing the two, definitely got to do a world class with MSC.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
And it
all of them are on my list, but it's hard to justify when You're going for just the ships when you
Right.
can do ships and places if you just sometimes you can
Right.
spend less.
Right,
So
exactly.
you gotta pick and choose.
Right. And we'll definitely like, we'll do ships, destinations, and then like kind of combine them at towards the end as well, because that's definitely a good point. Because there's definitely a few things where it's like, oh, I'd like to go here because this certain ship goes there, and it's a cool itinerary as well. But yeah, like, and the cool thing is, and I've kind of mentioned this before, maybe on or off podcast in the past, but the MSC World Class is kind of, it was originally seen as like an Oasis competitor, and I think as World America has come out, there's a pretty big difference. I think it's pretty substantial between Europa and the World America. But I feel like World America is actually an icon competitor when everybody thought it was going to be an Oasis competitor.
Oh, I mean, I think it's both, honestly. I mean,
Yeah,
something like that, I can only imagine they were cooking it on the stove for not 2 months, like it took
right,
them,
exactly.
how long did they have when Royal Caribbean announced Icon? They
Right,
already had that
exactly.
thing pretty much, I'd say, maybe set in stone.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
So,
They definitely had a lot of things, especially when I mean, it's a US based ship, so completely different markets and everything like that. But MSC, when they try to get a ship into the US market, they do a good job in making sure that it is like solely built for it, because that way it can fit in perfectly with the rest. Unlike say putting the World America into Asia, like the World America would not do good in Asia the way it is because of all that it has to offer. You know what I mean? Like the
sure,
giant
but then
ropes
when are we going to
course.
stop, like, section locking these ships?
Yeah.
Because what
So I
does that
guess
do for the future?
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
I've heard the future ones are going to be a little bit different. They might be region named still, but I don't think they're going to be region locked per se. Kind of like we're getting World Asia, at least in the Mediterranean for the first year or so. But yeah, I definitely agree with that. I don't think they should do the region locked names, which Atlantic
Oh,
definitely
the
is a
names
little
I
bit
don't. I could
better.
care less about. But you're talking about the features, and I'm like,
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, you get like the Joy when it first came out. I mean, that was not going to go over well in the U.S. So they had to do a huge thing on it. So, yeah, I mean, in that case, and like scenarios like that, it is kind of a waste of money to really go all in, um, unless it really is here in the U.S. because of how big of a market that it is. I mean, if you tailor a ship to the U.S., then it's going to pretty much have a lifelong success. Whereas you put it in a certain region, a region gets a downturn, and then you're done with it, or you're going to have to spend a lot of money to fix it up and send it somewhere else.
very true.
Right.
There's always been a lot of consistency here in the U.S. I guess it's a safe bet.
That's true. I think that's why they tailored the World America to more of that kind of market. Because I mean, obviously, the future is a different thing, but I believe they plan to keep the ship here for quite a while. I think it's going to stick
Mhm.
around, so it's good to cater it towards that, and
Right.
worry about the rest of that stuff later.
Right, exactly. And kind of how they catered it. I mean, with the World Europa, they have the really cool big like water park in the back, which is cool. A couple slides, but then you look at the World America that has all the slides. Then you also have the water park, and or the not the water park, I just mentioned that, but the ropes course and all the other, new things that they offer on that ship. So, they added a little bit to it, like especially like the cliffhanger. That's a really crazy thing that they decided to do.
Right.
With just a giant swing off the side of the ship. I mean, that's crazy. But yeah, I guess World America is definitely top of list for me. At least when it comes to ships.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah. I mean, as new as World Like America is, I mean, I'd probably push it back on my list because Edge Class has been out for all these years
Yeah.
now, and I've been wanting to try it.
Right.
So
And
it's
Hmm.
still on my list to eventually get on one.
I definitely agree. Because that same here. I mean, I've been wanting to do an Edge class ship for a long time. You know, I feel like anytime a new big class comes out, like I'd always be like, oh, top of my list and everything like that. But the Edge class is kind of stuck up there. Whether it's, I've been kind of eyeing the Apex when it comes here to Canaveral because, it's got decent prices for a Celebrity and it's close by and all that. The odds of me going are probably, unfortunately, pretty low just because there's so many other things booked right now. But, I do think...
Yeah, I think there's too many options right now, which is...
Yeah,
I mean, it's not a problem. It's a good thing to have, but there's just too much new, exciting things out. It's kind of hard to plan things if you can only go a certain amount of times.
Right, exactly. I mean, I've always wanted to go on the Joy, and that is almost a 8-year-old ship now. It's almost going to be ready for its 10-year dry dock by the time we even get to go on it, and that's just because there's been so much other stuff coming out lately. I'm excited to go.
It doesn't help that we did like 15 Royal Caribbean cruises, but regardless.
Yeah, exactly. Like even with the Joy that, I'm so excited to go on it, but at the same time, if you really think about it, like, when I start to look even deeper of what is being offered now, I'm like, I kind of want to do the Grandiosa or the World America just because those are a little bit newer, a little bit more fresh, or in things like that. It's kind of like after 3-4 years, these exciting ships like the Joy just kind of get swept away by the new ones coming out. So
for sure.
But yeah, I definitely would love to do an Edge class, and kind of same with the Quantum class. I mean, whenever I first came up with that question, I mean, I didn't even think about the Quantum class. Like I immediately in my head was like, all right, I've done Oasis and Icon, so World America, that's my pick. And then one of you mentioned doing a Quantum class, and I'm like, you know what? You're right. I do want to do that one. It's just, they've been out for so long.
The problem with
now.
that, and I think the reason we kind of forget about that is because they don't sail from here, and when they did, it was only part-time for like 3 years, 2 years, whatever it was. So it doesn't help. I mean, right, and I don't want to complain because we have so many great ships here in Florida, but I think that's a big reason why we haven't gone and kind of don't think about it. It's because they're not here. They're pretty much everywhere else in the world. Right. So, that kind of goes, against us trying to go. It makes it a lot harder.
Right, exactly. And when those ships were starting to come out, that was kind of the big China push as well. Quantum came here to New York, and that was great, but it was only here for a season, then left to go all the way over to China. So it came, had its big, oh, cool, pretty new ship, and then all of a sudden it was gone. And then we got the Anthem that just stayed up in New York. It stayed up in New York literally until now, or at least this past year. It never left. It always did the same itineraries. Then Ovation went to Australia and Asia, which, at the time we got Harmony, but, having Harmony and Ovation come out at the same time, Ovation just got swept under the rug as well.
And we were supposed to get Anthem in Fort Lauderdale before. So Quantum was in New York or New Jersey, whatever, and then they ended up moving her, and that's why they took Anthem out of Fort Lauderdale, is because they didn't want to have that new terminal in New Jersey and not have a Quantum class ship there. But that's why we ended up getting Harmony, because we lost Anthem. So It's like, I'll take it because Harmony's great, but it would have been nice to have Anthem here for a little while,
Yeah, exactly. And it was great that we finally got Odyssey, which was like, okay, like after 5 ships, we finally get one here in Florida. Like it could have taken a little bit less than 5 ships to finally give Florida, of all places, like a new ship when it comes to a certain class. But yeah, I mean, and even then it was only here for a few months out of the year. But I guess, going back into the bucket list thing, side of it, a ship like Odyssey was doing, Greek Isle cruises though at the same time. Like that was really neat.
Mm-hmm.
And even when it was here in Florida, it was doing 6 and 8 night cruises, which, those by themselves are, everybody does, multiple 7-day cruises, out of their fleet, but there's only usually 1 to 2 ships out of everybody's fleet that does the 6 and 8s. So there's not a whole lot of traffic when it comes down to, the Aruba, Bonaire, Curacao, that itinerary.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, when it comes to the Caribbean itineraries, I've been there, so, it's something I have marked off of my bucket list. But, when it comes to actual Caribbean itineraries, that's definitely one that's on there. I mean, I haven't been to Bonaire, but I've been to Aruba and Curacao twice. But
Same.
How hard it is sometimes to get a ship that goes down there. You really have to like plan that, purposely for a certain ship just to get that certain itinerary to go there.
Right, and since our topic is bucket list cruises, the ABC Islands or any mixture of that was definitely on my bucket list for a while. So I'm glad I got to do it twice, and I definitely want to do more. I feel like I've pretty much done all the Western Caribbean itinerary. I mean, there's not, there's very select places over there, but the Eastern Caribbean, there's a lot of like, what do they call it, like the Southern Eastern Caribbean, whatever they call that itinerary, where it's like St. Lucia or whatever else is down there.
Barbados, yeah.
Right. So I would love to do some of those islands as well.
Yeah, because like I did the Southern Caribbean, I guess the Southern Eastern Caribbean, if you want to call it that. I did that back on the Carnival of Victory, back in 2011, I want to guess. Which was great, which was really cool because it was a 7-night cruise and we had 6 stops. St. Thomas, St. Martin, St. Lucia, St. Kitts, Barbados. That was really cool. Barbados was always top of my list, whenever I was, when I was young. So I'm glad I got to check that off pretty early on. But, those were really cool islands, but I've also never been back.
Yeah, that was a Puerto Rico sailing, right? Out on the Victory?
Yes.
So I would love to do something like that, just to be in so many different places, Like, I love sea days, but when I have, like, 2 sea days in a row going somewhere, it's like, all right, like, I get it. But,
like on the
I would love to do a cruise out of there and have the opportunity to hit a bunch of islands kind of in one cruise versus doing, like, Coco Cay, St. Thomas, St. Croix, It's like, all right, like, I got to one place I wanted to go, but there's so many more, so I'd love to do something like that.
Speaking of St. Croix, that was a place that was always just, like, right there, but nobody ever sent ship there anymore. And we just got lucky on an itinerary change. We finally got to go there, like 2 months ago. It was awesome. Beautiful island. There's not much there. It's literally just, a couple shops and, you walk down the street, like the side of the road, you walk down and there's just the local beach sitting right there with a little snow cone stand at the, at the street. Yeah. Like there's really not much going on there, but it's a beautiful island and it's just kind of neat, very relaxed. There's no locals that are sitting there harassing you, things like that. It was
they were all very nice. The locals, it was great.
There was nobody like asking to sell you stuff or taxi rides or stuff like that. Like usually they're pretty down your throat, especially in some of the Caribbean itineraries or some of the Caribbean destinations. But here, just like you never really, unless you usually were the one that walking up to them, to buy something or something like that. So I really like St. Croix, despite there not being really much there. It was a beautiful island.
It was. I'm glad we got to go.
Yeah.
What about you, Dimitri? Are there any places in the Caribbean that you haven't been to that you'd like to be?
I'd like to be in all of them. How about that?
Oh God,
I like that answer. I like that answer.
That is an A+ answer.
So the Eastern Caribbean, to do something out of San Juan is on my list, Caribbean wise, but Western wise, I still need to go to Harvest Caye. I feel like that's such an underrated port, and we haven't been, and I want to go.
Even our Joy Cruise doesn't go there.
I feel like they don't go there that often. Like when it first opened, they were there all the time. Like I was there on Getaway, but
yeah,
I don't know. I feel like I don't hear about it anymore.
No, never.
Which is kind of like a good thing, because it's like fine, like it's But
it's a nice little private island. But there's, zip line there is really cool. I loved that excursion.
It was awesome.
Yeah. So that's on my list. But other for stuff in the Caribbean, like I said, do a San Juan one and do all those islands. But I've already gone down south.
Yeah.
I don't want to go back to Jamaica.
Nope, I'm good. I'm Jamaican out. They Jamaican me crazy.
Yeah, Jamaica man.
Panama Canal was really cool. That was one that was very top of my bucket list pretty much my entire childhood, and I got to do that back in 2018 on the Bliss. That was when you talk about bucket list cruise, when you loop in ship and itinerary, that is a bucket list cruise. Doing not only was it the inaugural sailing for the Bliss through the canal, it was like the second sailing technically for it, like when it comes like revenue sailing. Then it was a 15-day cruise through the Panama Canal, which I had always wanted to go through. So that was, I mean, probably one of the more ultimate bucket list type of trips that I've done so far, especially so far. But like overall, that was really, really cool.
Yeah, I would love to do the Panama Canal. It's on my bucket list. Ship-wise, I guess it wouldn't matter what I did as long as I got to go through it at that point.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah. Like the whole experience, because like a lot of people think it's just like you go through and then like that's it, but like it's a whole day process. It takes, you get there at like 6 a.m. It takes like an hour to get through each of the 3 locks. Then you spend the entire like half the day going through the lake, and then there's the actual canal that's like another couple hours, and there's another 3 locks going back down. I mean, we pulled in around like maybe 5 a.m. Finally got to the locks around like 8 or so. And then we weren't coming out of the final lock until like, almost 10 p.m. that night. It was crazy. It was a really cool experience. It was like watching paint dry, but at the same time, it was like watching a really cool coat of paint dry. Like, ooh.
Ah, okay.
Very fancy paint.
Very fancy paint.
But it was... But it was very cool. I mean, the Panama Canal is definitely something I would recommend to everybody to do. I mean, that was, especially if you have the time. I mean, one thing I do like about Carnival is that they're doing 8-night trips out of Tampa. They're partial canal.
It's like a partial, yeah. It's
right.
Awesome.
And you go down to Costa Rica as well, which, is another Western location that not many people go to just because it's so far. But yeah, that one was really neat
and they
as well.
try and do it. Right, and I think they do it at least twice, I think. At least with whatever Spirit class ship is. I think they try and do it like quickly when she first gets to Tampa, like the first month or so, and then they do it again later in the season. But I think they try to do it at least twice. It's pretty unique.
Right. Yeah, it is a really cool itinerary. I'd like to try it just like, to do a partial canal transit. It's, more doing an 8-night on a small ship is
right,
a little lower on the thing there, but but yeah, and then I guess so now transitioning over to just like overall destinations, like what's one itinerary that's just like top of your list that you've never done before and that you would just love to do?
You want to go first, Dimitri, or you want me to go?
Sure, you go first.
I think Dimitri
Me?
wants to go to
Oh
Greece.
yeah, you go.
I would say like my top 3 would be like Australia, New Zealand.
Yes.
Obviously Panama Canal, so we already said that, so I won't count it. But Hawaii, I know there's not very many choices in Hawaii, but
That would be
Hawaii
cool.
is on my list.
Yeah.
And Northern Europe.
Oh yes.
Like Norway, stuff like that. So
That's literally my answer. I like obviously like I would do like Alaska or Australia and stuff like that, but I would love to go up to like Norway and just that whole northern area. It's like, Ireland. I want to go to Belfast.
Yes.
Yeah. That's high up there on my
another
list.
one that sneaks around the radar is like Portugal and Spain. And does like a little bit of France. I like those. And I mean, speaking while you're over there, sure, you can do the Greece and stuff, but Venice is on the list. I know they don't sail through the canal anymore.
I know,
To do,
of
like,
course.
Croatia and,
Yeah.
We did that on the Jewel. We did that kind of like Venice, Croatia, stuff like that. It was. I mean, I don't remember much of it. I was 10 years old, but it was a good cruise. It was a 12-night, I think. 12-night from Istanbul to Barcelona, and it was an overnight in Istanbul before we left. So like we got on, and the ship stayed overnight, and we left the following afternoon. So that was pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, I miss the itineraries Royal used to do on like a Vision class ship, or a Radiance class where they do like Barcelona to Athens with 12 days. So you got to see Spain, France, Italy, some Turkey and some Greece. That was great. I wish I would bring that back, but
Yeah.
I missed it. But a lot of people.
I'd also like to do
don't
Israel. I don't know.
but not a lot of ships go
Why is
there.
that?
But
Well, I'll give you one big reason.
Grab
But
your yarmulke.
I think Rhapsody was doing. I think she was sailing from there at one point, right? I mean, I know it's different now, but like
I know she was supposed
wasn't
to. Odyssey was
Maybe she
originally
never
supposed
ended up getting
to start there too. Oh, she was originally supposed to
Yeah.
start there. But yeah, there's a lot of issues going on over there at the moment.
Right,
which
but if
is
it ever
probably
opened
why-
up again, I would
Yeah.
love to do that.
Yeah, that would be a really cool cruise to do.
as much as I say, or like see issues over there, like Dubai is on my list. Like to do a United Arab Emirates cruise.
Yeah,
That's cool. I always see World Europa and Euribia there.
right. I was gonna say that's a big MSC itinerary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, that would be super cool.
Yeah,
That would be really cool. I guess for me, I'm sure you two know this, but for me, it's a Asia cruise. I want to do something out of Japan or something to Japan.
why is that?
They got really cool places
Yeah,
there.
really
Alexis
excited.
just got back
Really
from
pleased.
Alexis just got back from 2 weeks in Japan, and seeing all the pictures and the places that she went, I am so jealous. It looks so cool.
Still haven't seen a single picture. But great.
I'll
Great.
I'll find some. But yeah, like some of the places there, just like the cities there, whether they're like futuristic cities or they're the old historic cities, like Kyoto and things like that. I mean, there's a lot of variety when it comes to a place like Japan and even up in Korea as well. Like I was just randomly looking the other day. It was a 9-night cruise on the Jade. It's the Jade. Don't really want to go all the way over to Asia for the Jade, but it starts in right outside of Seoul of South Korea. There's it starts there. There's one more stop in Korea, and then it's a stop every single day until you get to Tokyo on the 9 nights. So there's not a single sea day on it, but it goes to like Nagasaki, Hiroshima, Kyoto, Yokohama, things like that. It was really neat. It was some really cool places that they had on there. But yeah, so that's kind of like top of my list. I think second would be Australia. Australia has always been really cool to me, especially like going up and down like the Barrier Reef and you're just like down the coastline and going over to New Zealand as well. I always thought would be really cool.
P Sherman 42 Wallaby Way.
P42,
Sydney.
yeah, P42 Sherman Wallaby Way, Sydney.
That's right. Duh. If I'm not going there, I'm out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But like my grandparents did, this was back in maybe 2016 or 17, I guess. But they did that 47-day South Pacific cruise on the Norwegian Jewel. That was when she first debuted over, and like that was the first time Norwegian had a ship done there. They took it, they started in Hawaii. They circled the islands for like a couple days. Then they made all the way down across the equator, through the Polynesian islands, over around New Zealand, and then got to Sydney. Then they stayed on, went up and down to Tasmania, and back to Sydney. Like that would be super cool. I mean, I couldn't imagine 50 days almost on a ship, but like that would be really cool to do.
Yeah,
True.
that's.
And while you're down there,
That's
you
an
might as well go to
interesting
Bora Bora, but I am
Right,
Bora
exactly.
Bora.
I am
So,
Pora
that-
Pora. I love that. But yeah, like all those places like doing the South Pacific, like especially the Trans-Pacific like that, where it's going from Hawaii down to Australia like that. And even like Anthem right now is on a Trans-Pacific, but it's going Asia over to Alaska right now. I think my mom, they're going on Anthem next week, but my mom's like, oh, where's the Anthem at? And so she's been like following on a marine traffic. She's like, oh, it just left Japan. And and so now she's like, oh, it's almost to Seattle. Well, it's almost my turn. But yeah, like that one's
Sailing.
they're on the second one.
The second one. Okay.
which is funny because it's still kind of cold up there this time of year, and they do not like the cold. I've kind of figured they would do that right in the middle of the summer for that, but it's okay.
I was gonna say I heard
They're gonna be a little chilly.
Regulations for ports because of the weather.
Yeah. But I guess third on my list would be also Northern Europe as well. Mediterranean would be cool, but I think Northern Europe would probably be like top, I guess, number 3 for me. Especially if you can get it on a good ship, because I've noticed they have some pretty decent ships that do that itinerary or, those locations and things like that. So that would be super cool to do.
And Mexican Riviera. Like, I know that's when you go over there, that's all you can do, but you got to do it once. I know you did it, Brandon, but.
What's that?
Still. Like Mexican Riviera, Cabo.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's like like everybody that cruises a bunch in the Caribbean has to do the Riviera at least once just to see how it is, because that's a whole different world. I mean, it's completely different than anything you get from Mexico, the Mexico that we typically see in the Caribbean. I mean, you're pulling in and there's mountains in the background, like giant mountain ranges. Like Puerto Vallarta is right in the middle of a city. You got the giant hills and things like that in the background. There's a Walmart sitting, a block away from the cruise terminal. I mean, there's a lot, there's so much there. It's just like you just like dock right in the middle of the city too. Like Cabo San Lucas, beautiful looking place. That was the one place over there that I didn't go to, but that's a tender port. But I mean, Cabo San Lucas is like famous for just how pretty that area is. Mazatlan kind of gets overlooked, but like in my opinion, like, and that's apparently what a lot of people say, is that Mazatlan is kind of like the Hollywood of Mexico. It definitely had like Hollywood, like Beverly Hills type of vibes, and at least when it comes to like the tropical, like beachy feel of it. With all the mountains and the sand and the beach.
It's on the coast of Mexico.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. But like, the palm trees, the beaches, the mountains, things like that. It very like, Southern California vibes, which makes, I guess, a little bit of sense because it's just south of Southern California, but you know what I mean? But yeah, Mexican Riviera is definitely a really cool one to do.
And I mean, what do you call it? If you want to do like 3, like out of the ordinary, we got to go visit our friend King Julian in Madagascar and do Southern.
Yes.
I want to do South American, like Chile and Argentina.
Around the Horn.
Around the Horn.
That would be cool.
What do you call it? Like Greenland. Like, I know Iceland was already in Northern Europe. But
that would be really cool. That would be really cool, actually. I would love to do that.
Yeah, we have a whole life.
Yeah. But I was going to say the Prima seems to do, Greenland a lot, or the Iceland cruises.
They do like Greenland, Iceland, Norway. Norwegian has great itineraries out there.
Mm-hmm. With their like non-Caribbean itineraries, Norwegian's non-Caribbean itineraries, like they have the best ones.
Yeah.
When it comes to everybody else, like Mediterranean, Asia, South Pacific, wherever, like Norwegian usually has the best itineraries. And I feel like that's partially because they put the smaller ships over there typically. But even like with ships like the Prima, which they were designed to do things like that when it comes to those, summertime in the colder climates, maybe not quite Alaska, but, the Iceland and Greenland cruises, like those ships have seemed to do really well in that region.
Will they send a Prima class to Alaska?
I think it's inevitable once more of them come out.
Maybe. The only thing is that it's actually, because they are based off the same project from Fincantieri as the MSC Seaside. The Seaside arguably would be better because it has an indoor pool, but at the same time, like that ship has so much outdoor space, and I feel like the Prima class also has that same like large amount of outdoor space. So I don't know how well they would do, especially because they don't have the indoor pool like the Seaside does. But I mean, I could see it because how well the ship does up in Iceland or Greenland. Like I mean, it makes sense.
Well, the other thing is that Joy and Bliss don't have indoor pools, and those things are up there. And Prima Class has an observation lounge too.
Yeah, I
Let me
mean,
tell you,
a
you're
lot
not
of people
going on
love
Alaska
the
cruise to go in the freaking pool. Like, you know what I mean? I
right.
went in the pool. That's just me because I'm crazy. But
Yeah, I mean,
uh,
yeah, I think a lot of it's the observation lounges on that Breakaway Plus class. Is that what people really like about them up in
well, in
Alaska?
Prima and Viva, they have basically the same thing. It's just not like a two-story open, but they still have the exact
Yeah.
same lounge.
So yeah, I guess I could see it. I mean, I guess they have the tucked in lifeboats and they're small enough. I mean, they could go through the canal. Yeah, I could see them putting Viva over there. They seem to have like the Breakaway Plus seems to be their bread and butter over there, though. I feel like that class is too successful over in Alaska that they won't put the Prima there because they don't want to. Yeah,
It's just successful.
yeah, they don't want to like miss out on the opportunity because of. I mean, they have 3 of the 4 over there, and it's the only 3 that can get through the canal to get there in the first place. You know, the only reason Escape's probably not doing it is because of, the fact that it can't get over there.
Yeah.
So, it would definitely be very interesting and really cool to see them put something like that over there. But I guess so now moving into doing these crazy itineraries and these crazy, global destinations, now mix in like a destination ship as well. Is there a certain, realistically, something that like either exists or has potential of happening? So like, throwing an Oasis class in Alaska probably wouldn't be included on this list here. We're saying
That would be pretty sweet, though.
That would be
Never seen
great. That would be crazy to see. I mean, Royal Caribbean's just dumb enough to do it, but at the same time, I mean, I think the quantum class are perfect for up there. But like, so realistically, like a ship and itinerary that actually exists already, or something that has like a pretty good chance of happening in the future.
I would love to do Northern Europe on a Freedom class. I know it sounds random, but I just love the Freedom class, and I think doing Northern Europe, and I think they used to, or Quantum class
Indy.
used to, or whatever it was, but yeah,
Indy.
I think
Indy.
that would be great.
People love the Indy over in Southampton.
They do. It's kind of like a cult over there.
I know, it's great. Except for that one, that when we were in Miami, that one British guy that we were talking to throughout the day, he's
Yeah.
like, oh, I hate the independence. I'm like, you're the only British person I've
The only
ever
British
heard.
guy I know that says that.
Only. It's like I hear all this stuff online. And the one time I meet a British guy, he's like, oh, the independence is the worst. I'm like, that goes against everything else that I've heard before.
Right.
But yeah, I hear a lot of really good things about like the Freedom class up there, and I feel like the Freedom class is great because of its size too. When it comes to an itinerary like that, and the Freedom class in general, like it could go anywhere and still be like in good standing, when it comes to being able to get around in and around some of these ports.
Mm-hmm.
I think do it.
I think Euribia would be one for me to do, like either a Freedom class or even Euribia, because Euribia does a lot of sailings up in Northern Europe as well. They seem to do some pretty cool itineraries as well with that ship, and I think that's why they put it there and kind of gave it the only whole artwork in the entire fleet, which is kind of odd, but I think Euribia would be pretty cool to do Northern Europe.
That would be cool. That's a good class. I mean, I haven't been on them, but it seems like it's a good class.
Yeah, I'm dying to get on the Grandioso when it gets here. They got some good prices on that ship. I want to go on it so bad, just because it looks cool. At this point I'll have done both the Seaside Evo ships, so try something different, like a different class. Whether it's World America or the Grandiosa or whatever. But like for me, another one, on top of the Euribia in Northern Europe, I would also, going to, my number one destination, being Asia, I would love to do the Spectrum of the Seas over there because it's a quantum class.
Yeah.
That's a bucket list class for me, and it's a bucket list destination. So, they do a couple sailings that are over there that are out of, Japan, or they'll go out of Korea and go to Japan or, Shanghai or wherever. But I think that ship in that area, that would be like ultimate if I were to go over there for a cruise, that would probably be the ship I would purposely try to do to go to that area.
For sure.
Yeah. The Bellissima is sailing out of there right now too, or just finished up too.
Interesting.
Which is
yeah, MSC just has ships everywhere, it seems like.
They really do. And that's kind of like the cool thing about them is that, a lot of them are smaller, older ships like that. And they tend to put a lot of the bigger, flashier ships here in the U.S., which is great because, that's what sells over here. You're not going to get people going on the Lyrica out of Miami.
Yeah, good luck.
It's funny. One of
I hope
my,
not, at least.
I have one of the guys I work with, he's like, oh yeah, I'm going to Europe. I'm going on a cruise. Cause he's like, oh, you going on one of these cruises makes me want to go. So he went over to Europe. He's like, oh, what ship are you going on? He goes, oh, I'm going on the Lyrica. And I go,
Wrong.
but I was like, okay, that's a cool choice. He had a great time. I mean, cause his itinerary is like, is 7 days, no sea days,
Yeah, that's how they all are over there.
Ship spotting was literally, I looked it up and it was like just him, just the Lyrica and that one port or, that port each day. But I mean, it was a pretty cool itinerary, like Malta, Marseille, Barcelona, things like that. So, I mean, cool itinerary though, which is part of like why, I'm eyeballing the world Asia potentially, and it's, things like that where there's not really any ships to be seen over there, but some of the destinations look really cool, and the fact that it's no sea days, things like that.
Do you know where a lot of ships hide and not a lot of people see them?
Where's that?
In like Tenerife and like the Grand Canary Islands, like off the coast of Africa there. Like Ada's whole fleet is over there, and Main Shift's whole fleet is over there, and nobody ever talks about it.
That's interesting.
Really? That is very interesting.
Yeah. There's like gazillion ships there, and I'm like, they make 7 cruises out of it, or 7-day cruises out of it, but I'm just like, that's like a destination. Wow. And like northern Eastern Europe, like Denmark, Sweden, like if you go like inside, like a lot of ships used to go there, but now they don't because it's close to Russia or whatever. But it's another market that a lot of people don't talk about either.
Yeah, that's it. That's kind of a itinerary that nobody really talks about because there's really not. Actually, Norwegian's the only people I've seen do it, but they sail out of like Cape Town, South Africa, and they'll do like the Southern Africa cruises over to Madagascar, as you mentioned earlier. But that's definitely an itinerary that nobody ever does is stuff like that.
Right.
But that would be pretty neat as well. I feel like with like pairing up Australia, I mean, they've got a lot of quantum class ships that go down there. I think that's one thing that Royal has over Norwegian is that they use that class instead of bringing them over to the Caribbean, which I feel like maybe the Caribbean would probably do a little bit better with that class. But, doing Australia and Alaska instead of Alaska and Caribbean, with the quantum class is a really cool pairing to where, you get some really cool destinations on that class of ship, on that quantum class.
I just think down there, I mean, once they're down there, I mean, they might as well just stay down there. I mean, I know for the season they can come north to Japan or go over to Hawaii, or it's just tough because then you got to do a trans-Pacific or a trans-Indian.
It's so far out of there. Yeah, I mean, even like you do a South Asia cruise. I mean, you sail out of Hong Kong, go to like the Philippines and Vietnam and stuff like that. You're still like 5 sea days, or at least 3 to 4 sea days, I would say, to Australia, like to Sydney. So like, even from there, like you're not gonna get a 7-day cruise that goes from somewhere else to Australia. Like it's so far down and out of the way. It's hard to move them around. Like with Voyager, her last day was last weekend here in Canaveral, and she's gonna go over to Europe, and then she's gonna go down to Australia, and just because she's going to Australia, it's like, yeah, I am not gonna see that ship ever again. So
it's gonna be a while.
Not planning on it. I mean, she was down in Australia what, 8 years ago or something like that. So it was a long time ago, but at the same time, like, yeah, that was 8 years ago, and Voyager just turned 20 years old. So like, realistically, how long do we actually have to get that ship back up here into the Caribbean, you know?
That's true. You don't even think about that
Seeing how long
sometimes.
it
Yeah.
takes to get out of there, Silver Whisper is going from Singapore to Cape Town. How long do you think it takes to get from there to there?
That's crossing the entire Indian Ocean. So I would say that's got to take at least 12 days at sea.
12, okay.
Did I nail that?
No.
Dang it.
What is it, like 18 days? That's probably too
Huh?
long.
What'd you say? Sorry.
18?
It looks like it is 16.
Oh, all right, I'm pretty close.
Wow.
I'll take it.
That's great. Over 2 weeks straight at sea just to get from Singapore to Cape Town. That's wow.
Huge ocean.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I couldn't even imagine. I feel like I'd start to go crazy even on a ship. Like even if it was a good ship, I'd be like, all right, like let's get this over with. You know, after 16
Right.
days straight, you could put me on the Icon for 16 days straight at sea. Eventually, I'd be like, all right, I'm done.
Right.
But that's wild. I see this in the chat, so it's a good thing to kind of throw into the on topic here. Ideal number of nights and how many sea days. Like for example, 8-night cruise with 2 sea days, etc.
I'm going to start off this question
Go
by Royal Caribbean. You don't need 2 days back from St. Martin. Stop somewhere else. I don't want to go on a 7-day cruise and only go to 3 places. That's ridiculous.
You tell him, Dimitri.
But you're going on the Icon of the Seas.
I could care less.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like it depends on the region. Because like if I'm going to Europe, I could care less about a sea day. Like 1 sea day
Right.
would be nice. But if there's a port every day, like there is on the 2 cruises that we're doing, fine.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is. We're there to see the destinations, not the ship.
Mm-hmm.
We're on the ship at night. We'll see it then. You know what I mean? You're not
Right,
there to
exactly.
relax. Say I'm traveling halfway across the globe. I'm not going to sit in a lawn chair and read a magazine. You know what I mean?
Right, like with these World Asia itineraries that I've been checking out, I mean, it's 0 sea days, which a ship like that would be. I feel like a ship like that I would need at least 1 because of how crazy and big the ship is, but at the same time, like the destinations on a cruise like that, the destinations are a little bit more important. Going around the Mediterranean.
Sure, you have a port every day. You pick one day that's the least interesting to you. You get off the ship, you walk around the town for 2-3 hours, and you get back on the ship. There's your sea day.
Yeah, that's what we do in the
When you
Caribbean
get
the
back
whole time,
home, you're back
anyways.
by lunch, and you enjoy the rest of the day. That's all you do.
Boom.
That's what we do in the Caribbean, anyways. So
Yeah.
yeah. Just got back from Allure, and the Mediterranean had 1 sea day. Was that the new updated version of the Allure? That's kind of cool. I feel like that fell
Yeah,
off the radar as soon as it happened.
Yeah, I think she went straight to dry dock from there, so I don't think she did any cruises before that.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's awesome.
I feel like the Allure was like, ooh, yay, it's going to dry dock. And then as soon as it was out of dry, I wasn't even a big deal that it came out of dry dock, that it was done. It was just like, oh, yep, it's sailing.
What?
It just
Question for
gone.
whoever commented that. How were the staterooms? Because I heard someone say that they did not touch the staterooms. Like
Some
upgrading
of them are
wise.
not all of them.
Right. So I wonder, I don't get that, but I wonder how whoever commented that, how was your stateroom?
It's Royal
I was gonna say, I
Caribbean.
think they just changed the carpet, but they didn't change any of the fixtures.
We are maximizing
What, Dimitri?
profit here at Royal Caribbean.
Royal. I've got some gripes with them right now.
It's like my biggest gripe with Royal Caribbean is like, okay, yeah, you're putting out some like incredible ships and stuff like that, but like the itineraries suck. You know, the itineraries are the same thing that you do, or you've got 4 sea days on a week-long cruise, which is great, you know, but you know, half of it is because the ship's too dang big. The second part of it is so you can spend more money on board. And then, you know, so you're going to the same 3 destinations on every single ship. And then even the ones that do the exotic itineraries still don't go anywhere that out of the ordinary compared to the competition. Like, and the only reason to go on Royal Caribbean right now is to go for the actual ship. If you're trying to go for an actual, like, you know, exotic experience when it comes to some of the destinations, you're not going to pick Royal Caribbean.
I was gonna say there's better
Right.
options.
There's way better when it comes to, you know, when it comes to like Norwegian, like we mentioned earlier, like they've got some of the most incredible itineraries when it comes to stuff like that, or when it comes to stuff like that. And even MSC to an extent at least, but I feel like Norwegian has like the best itineraries, like we were mentioning earlier, when it comes to like Greenland, Iceland, Northern Europe, Mediterranean, Greek Isles, all that stuff. You're going to the Greek Isles soon.
Mhm.
No.
I do see a question if we're gonna do an updated ship model collection video. I will get to that soon.
Yeah, I can. I got a whole bunch of new ones. So I can do that.
I've been getting so many lately. I'm like, all right, when I get this one, I'm gonna try to do it, and then all of a sudden, like I've got like, oh, I've got another one coming. Hold on. So I'm like, it is a problem how many I've gotten.
It is a problem. It definitely is. I have 2 full 5-level shelves full of cruise ship models.
Because I've got
It's kind of a problem.
I just picked up the World America like 2 weeks ago. I've got the World Europa that I'm getting by the end of the week. My girlfriend got me the Norwegian Pearl. You know, I'm going on the Seascape to get to get that model and everything like that. So I've just got so many. But yeah, I'll do one soon. But anyways, back on topic though. Yeah, like, you know, when it comes to Norwegian, I guess in comparison, like, and even Carnival. I mean, Carnival, they only go to the Caribbean anyways. Like Carnival, you're not really looking at an exotic cruise or like a crazy destination cruise when you're going on Carnival. You're mostly going for a good time. You know, dare I say budget, but not really a budget.
Used to be.
It used to be. I feel like MSC's turned into the budget cruise line, but they're not acting like a budget cruise line. They act like Royal, but they charge less than Carnival, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Which is great because like, you know, Royal Caribbean's got a lot of issues when it comes to, you know, trying to, you're like, yeah, you know, we're building the Icon. It's like, okay, give me something other than the Icon to go on, you know, give me something less than 4 sea days, you know, where, but they're also charging you, you know, 3 times the amount of an average cruise, whereas MSC, you know, they're putting out an equivalent, if not maybe just slightly below, you know, the Icon, but they've got decent itineraries. They're sending that class all over the world. They've got some in Europe. They're going to send you know, Asia over to, you know, the Mediterranean and eventually over to Asia. You know, you got ship like the Bellissima sailing out of Tokyo. You've got the Riviera sailing out of, you know, Dubai and, you know, Northern Europe and things like that. And then you've got the Meraviglia out of New York and, you know, all sorts of stuff. So like they've got such a wide variety of ships going, you know, and great ships, you know, when it comes to size, class, and, you know, offerings and stuff like that. They're all over the world, whereas really the only ones for Royal that are going all over the world are the Quantum class.
Yeah.
And
Royal needs to do better with itineraries. They have great
really
ships
do.
to do it, but they
They
just
have
need to.
They have great ships to do it, but they'd rather maximize the profits on board by giving extra sea days and saving the fuel costs. Which you know what, like save the fuel costs, like that's, you know, and they're all for-profit companies. Like obviously they're going to try to, you know, maximize their profits and stuff like that. But the way they're doing it is shooting themselves in the foot because they're not offering anything special. You know, the only thing that they're offering that's special is the ship. Cool. It's the Icon.
Pretty much. That's kind of what they're focused on, it seems, unfortunately.
Right, exactly. Like the only, like at least to me, the only reason to go on Royal Caribbean right now is to go for the ship. You know,
Right.
um, but I see in the chat, how can the World America dock in San Juan, but Oasis class can't? So funny you should say that. MSC is the reason for that, because the Meraviglia hit the dock, but the World America is actually quite short in length. Apparently, the seaside or the seashore and the seascape are actually longer in length than the World America.
Yep.
So, but that's I guess that's the answer to that question, though. They're not
Because
nearly
she
as long
docks
as
at
the
that
Oasis.
pier all the way to the right with the big building.
That too, yes. But that dock that the Oasis class used was hit by MSC. Whoops. Coop
The only
says
thing I don't get
MSC.
about that is why don't they just dock on the other side of that pier? It's the same pier.
Yeah, I don't really know. It could, again, it's another reason to give another day at sea, probably. But
That's what I need.
right.
Yeah, because they want
So-
people to spend money on the ship and not on the island. That's why they're
Exactly.
building all these private destinations.
Right. Oh my God! Don't even get me started on this. As cool as all these destinations are, we could probably do a future podcast topic on this, but it would be an hour long of ranting. But like,
Yeah.
going back to all these offerings that everybody else does, MSC, Norwegian. I'm kind of excluding Carnival out of this because they only stay in the Caribbean. But all of these things, like the cool itineraries or like the exotic ones, you're putting Vision class over there. You're putting the Quantum class over there. You're putting in, you're alienating your audience because, all these ships are going to like all these cool ships that people want to do are going to like Australia, Asia, things like that. So where not many Americans are going to want to do it. But like with Royal Caribbean, they're putting all these crazy ships. They're giving you 4 sea days out of a week-long cruise. So you're only going to 3 destinations so they can maximize onboard revenue. And then you're taking instead of going to Cozumel and Roatan and Nassau and things like that, they're building their own place within those ports so they can charge you more money, because if we've already learned by example with Coco Cay, you cannot do anything but sit on a beach chair for free and eat like a casual
pretty
snack.
much.
If you want to do
Hey,
anything,
some people like that, and all
don't
for
get me
it.
wrong.
But for most people, I agree. It's just not what they're looking for.
It's fun. I love Coco Cay, but at the same time, I can only go there so many times before it's going to empty out my wallet just going there in general.
Yeah, and I don't want to spend $200 to go on a couple of water slides.
Right. Exactly. It's like $100 going on the water slides. It used to be $30 to go into the adults only area. Now it's $100 to go into the adults only area. You want a private cabana, $1,000. It's
crazy.
You want to go on the jet skis, $100. You want to go on a crummy zip line, $100.
Paying this crap and they're making it worse for everybody else.
Right.
So,
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
It's like yeah, we can complain all we want, but like all these people are still going to pay all this money to do it anyway. So like Royal Caribbean's getting away with it because people continue to do it, but at some point, it's going to get to the point where people are going to do the same thing over and over and over again, and like eventually they're either going to be like out of money or they're going to be like, all right, this is boring. I've done this 100 times. Like there's nothing special about any of this stuff anymore.
Well, it's true, and I know it's not cruising related, but Porsche 911, it's now $250,000, and they're still buying them like crazy.
It's like that with video games. Like with the current hot topic within video games is everybody's complaining that Mario Kart is $80. The new Mario Kart coming out for the Nintendo Switch 2 is $80. It's like, okay, well, as crummy as that is, like I mean, I personally, I got the bundles, so I only paid $50 for it technically, but like Best Buy's website crashed like on the Mario Kart listing because so many people were trying to buy the game at once. It's like, yeah, we can complain all we want about the price, but people are still paying it. People are still going out in hordes, paying the money to do it, buy the game.
Right, that's the problem.
And that's the problem. And like people like me, like I was gonna pay the $80 if I got the if I didn't get the bundle that I got that included the game. I was gonna pay the $80 to play the game because I wanted to play it. But at the same time, like yeah, I don't know. It's a crazy thing to do, but yeah, I mean, again, Royal's great, but the only thing special that Royal is offering, in the on the topic of bucket list cruises, the only bucket list thing that they're offering is the ship. There's no real special destinations that they're offering.
Yeah. So Royal Caribbean needs to change their business model here. Not in terms of making money, because they clearly know how to do that. They just need to, change the way they do itineraries and stuff, because they're what do you call it? They're alienating a big chunk of their clientele, because there's a lot more people that don't want to go to Coco Cay and these weekend sailings on these mega ships. They want to do long itineraries that go to different places or unique places and whatever, and they don't want to be on a ship that's got 10,000 people on it, and I don't blame them. I mean, I love the new ships. I like for filming wise and stuff, but I get it. I wouldn't
Right.
I wouldn't want to be stuck on a family ship for 7 days and have kids running around all day. So.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing with Icon, but
yeah.
But like, why do you think that Royal Caribbean's audience is begging for the Discovery class? They're begging for it. But what's going to happen? We're not getting the Discovery class. Why do you think we haven't seen it yet? Because they can't.
Yeah, breaking news.
So I've heard this from several people, but like that ship is in limbo because they want something a certain size, but they can't get anything that's profitable or that within their profit margins that they want, which is again somewhat within reason, because yes, you're not going to build a ship that's not going to make money, obviously, but at the same time, you want something that's going to, you want something that people are asking for, so
yeah,
like, the accuracy of this is, who knows? So take this, take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt, but like, from what I had heard is that, they want something that's 80 to 90,000 tons to replace the Vision and the Radiance class. Great. A perfect idea, because again, we're looking for something that's going to offer crazy exotic destinations, like, the better itineraries that Norwegian has, stuff like that. But in order to get the profits that they're looking for, they end up with something that's 160,000 tons. And that's why we haven't seen the Discovery class yet. Again, take that with a grain of salt. I heard that from somebody random, so who knows? But
yeah.
But essentially, they're about 100,000 tons bigger than what they wanted, which is 100,000, which is something that is a problem when they're looking for something that's under 100,000 tons in general. So like, that's Royal Caribbean's problem right now. But yeah, that's, in my opinion, that's why we haven't seen the Discovery class.
Yep.
I feel like Discovery classes already exist. It's the Edge class. Honestly, I low-key-ish agree with it to an extent. I mean, it's 120 to 140,000 tons. Great ships. They go to the, one's going to Alaska, one's in Australia. They got a couple in the Caribbean. I mean, they're nice ships doing great, great itineraries and things like that. They're offering several different things. So yeah, I mean, to an extent, in a roundabout way, yeah. I mean, what they're trying to accomplish with it, maybe a little bit bigger than what they're trying to do, but yeah, But anyways, that kind of turned it into a rant about Royal Caribbean a little bit there, but
yeah. So maybe we should
I guess it kind of capped off the conversation though, because I guess we're talking about bucket list, and they offer nothing but bucket. They only actually going back. Everything that we discussed, I mean, I guess other than Spectrum of the Seas, I said Spectrum, we're going over to Asia, but I mean, at some point, Disney's going to offer a ship or two as of this week, or possibly two ships that go to Asia. MSC's got the Bellissima over there, things like that. Norwegian's got a couple ships going over there. So, I mean, yeah, it's just a lot of the other cruise lines are offering much better itineraries when it comes to things like that. When we're looking at itineraries, everything outside of picking a specific ship for that specific reason of the ship, their Royal Caribbean was pretty much like non-existent on the lists. It was it was when we were picking the certain ships, like, you know, Justin mentioned the new Oasis class, or when I mentioned, like, you know, trying to do a quantum class like the Odyssey, things like that, you know. So yeah, anyways, any closing thoughts, any closing points you'd like to make?
Hopefully, I can do my bucket list cruises soon. That's about it.
I agree.
And it won't be soon, but I hope it is.
I think all I have to do is ask Alexis if she wants to go on a European cruise, and she'd probably be in.
For real.
But yeah, so who knows? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's topic. I think next week we're going to try to come back again for a second week in a row and do a Q&A potentially next week. So definitely stay tuned. We're going to try to get back on a more consistent podcast again like we were in the past. But hope you guys all enjoyed. Thank you for listening, watching. Anybody here on YouTube with our live chat, or if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you're listening, hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.